and really kind of brought that with. So I'm here today to kind of hopefully spread some of that passion, give you guys an idea of what I'm trying to accomplish and what we're doing here in my classroom when it comes to this idea of having multiple AAC systems in the classroom, and how throughout the years I've learned some tips, some tricks, some things that I've done, that have worked for us, and hopefully they will be ideas for you as well to take back to your districts, and to help those that are also dealing with this idea of multiple systems, AAC systems in the classroom, and how to reduce that kind of burnout or that fatigue, and why it's important to have multiple AAC systems in the classroom. So we're going to really kind of look at this idea of going through the research and understanding what that research tells us and what we know, and understanding going through these ideas of the AAC competencies and how it's important for those issues in implementing and modeling those strategies. And I'm really hoping that you can take away one strategy here that can help you with that multi-device fatigue if that is happening in your district. Or maybe it is you have a district that is just that only one device district, and you would like to kind of shed some light on how this could be possible. How could you have 3, 4, 5 different AAC languages within one classroom? Like, how is that possible? And I'm here to tell you it is possible, because I do it every day, live and breathe this every single day. So it is possible to do that. So then how can we convince others that this is something it's okay to do? So of course, if you've been with any of my webinars, you know that modeling is a big deal for me, and always are going to be talking about modeling strategies. So this is me. This is my classroom. I kind of got on the bandwagon with everybody and doing their Bitmojis, and so this is one. The beginning. We are in person teaching and learning. We've been in person since the beginning of September. Our school took a little bit of a break right before Christmas, and went to virtual. However, my classroom, which I teach, we call it the SAIL classroom. It stands for Supporting Academics for Inclusionary Practices, for inclusionary learning. And it used to be called our life skills classroom. So I have 10 students who 9 of which are nonverbal, very complex communication needs and complex bodies. And currently also, when I say that I kind of walk this walk and I breathe this every day, we're going through right now 6 AAC trials with and 2 major device companies that we're using. We have eliminated a third, and then 3 different AAC systems is what we're looking at. So for these 6 kids. So some are similar because it looks like their needs would be similar. Some it's not. It really is that we'll get into this with that feature match. So this is my classroom. I didn't have a chance to get these on the wall when I made this presentation. So you'll see that I've put these in my virtual classroom as well. Very easy. I do virtual as well as in person. So when I have my virtual classroom, and I am working and we are doing AAC and literacy and math with AAC virtually, this is kind of the classroom setup, my virtual classroom that I use. So kind of the background that we go through. Very familiar for my kids, familiar for me. So, and I'm sure you'll get familiar with it as well. Okay, so again, if you've been to any of mine, you know that presuming competence, or this idea of presuming potential, is not just something that we need to talk about. It is something that we need to walk with. We need to live and breathe and feel this idea that we need to presume this competence. We just don't say it, we need to actually do it. So it is really to say that I can. We're going to be using these icons from 3 different devices throughout this presentation, but really looking at what I can do. So to help with this understanding of presuming competence and presuming potential. And it doesn't mean that a person has to understand and know all the stuff right away, right? It doesn't mean that. It means that they that they have the right to have access to and be thought of as having the ability to access anything at their environment, communication, power and mobility. I feel presuming competence comes into that as well. I think that that's really important. So it's really having this idea that it's not just something that we think about, but something that we implement. Um, so, one of I talk about my good colleague, Mike Hipple, who's a AAC user and uses Unity and PRC's communication, and he has, I think he's up, he now has a Unity Accent 1100. So he and I, we made this pact that we're going to keep working on this idea of spreading this, the presuming competence and the communication bill of rights. And, I was going through this and, I have this printed out. This one was amended from Kate Ahern and kind of brought into language that is for our AAC users and our students as well. So excuse me. So I really, really like this version. And I was going through it again. And like I said, I have this all over the school, posters of this all over, and making sure everybody has this front and center, this idea of this communication bill of rights. But taking a look at it again and really thinking about what we're talking about today. And there's quite a few on here that really kind of stand out to me. So this idea of having a multi and setting up a multi-AAC classroom is just really important, and it comes into these communication bill of rights. So I have a right to know about the people in my life. I think that that's really important, that they are able to see, our students are able to see how others communicate with their communication device. That's super important. I have the right to be taught to communicate and have what I need, their communication system, which leads to the other. I have the right to be part of my community. If I'm in a community of AAC users, then I have a right to be able to hear and learn about that, as well as others learn about my system of communication. And then I love this last one, that I have the right to be talked with in a way that I understand, which is all about modeling, right? I have the right to have my communication and my language system modeled to me. And that is important. Okay. So this research, I felt this in my heart, and then I wanted to put together this webinar and this idea and how to help others kind of create this multi-system AAC classroom and how to do this. And then when I was looking around, I found tons of research, but really this most recent piece of really looking at, Young in 2019 had, and I have it listed here in a link to this, communication system identification for individuals with complex communication needs for effective feature matching. And what they talk about in here is that feature matching for an AAC device, right, which we know is, AAC is a system or method that improves the ability of a child with communication impairments to communicate effectively. We know this, and that feature matching is this comprehensive evaluation process of all the bits and pieces that go into these type of high tech and even low tech technologies, and how to have that assessment. Like I said, we're going through 6 different assessments right now. We have some direct select, we have some scanning, we have some eye gaze that we're doing. So looking at those features And it's really interesting. I was talking with one of the reps yesterday, and we were going through um, the eye gaze system that we have, and we've been using eye gaze with my student with Rets now since the beginning of the year, and teaching her how to use this. And going through this assessment process has been so important because the eye gaze system from one device and using it from one student, which we have found has worked really well, and using it with another student that it hasn't worked very well for. So same device, but two different students, that we really need to focus this on a person-centered practice, right? This person-centered, that it is, we can't say that this is our favorite piece. And so this is the only thing we are going to assess, or the only thing we're gonna look. Like, all the features seem to be fine, and I'm not going to look any further than that because that's the system I know. I come across this all the time. So even in my own biases, I definitely have systems that I have preference and that I have worked with more than I have worked with others. However, I really need to take and put that on a shelf, and really look at this my student and say, what are their needs, and let's look at what devices are really going to, and those features are going to fit with them. One of the parts that are in here that I also highlighted for myself to really kind of talk about is this, um, this goal of this person-centered approach, and then moving that towards that matching of the AAC system, and then and the identification of that, but then that instructional planning. That piece is super important. So now we've done the feature match. We know that we have 3 students that have 3 separate needs, and they have 3 separate devices. And that's okay. It's scary, super scary, but it's okay. And as a teacher, we can make this work. We can have this, because having those, and what we're going to go through now are some instructional strategies, right, on how to take all this research and go from there. So we know, we also know through the research that many cases, this idea of AAC abandonment, it's primarily due to that ineffective or lack of effective match between the individual and their communication system. And I think that this is why I feel so one of the passionate pieces about AAC, and making sure that we go through a robust, dynamic AAC assessment, is to make sure that we have the right match to the right kid. So just like the example I gave earlier, I have 2 kids that right now we're looking at for eye gaze, and we thought we had a really great system. Oh, it's going to work great for our other student. Not the case. We're going to end up with 2 different systems. We have 2 different kids, and the eye gaze, even though you would think that it is would be fine for all, it's not. You really have to trial that out with kids. So what's the point here is this next sentence. And this is what I come across quite a bit. I come across this with people in private practice, and my students and other students that I've worked with in the past. Well, when they go to private clinic and saying, well, you know what, I don't know that system. I only know this system. I only know Snap Plus Core. So that's the only one that I am going to introduce and I'm going to use. Or we are just a pro loquo district. All of our classrooms have pro loquo, and that's what all of our students use. It's not necessarily the best system. You may be having difficulties in with students and their access and learning of AAC because it's not an effective match. So it's really important to start out with that person-centered, go through that AAC dynamic. I like these dynamic AAC assessments where it's just not a one and done. It really takes time, especially for our really most complex learners, to take that time and to not only teach, but embed and to model, and then to trial different systems. And it does take time. So So this idea of, and I get this, of this having only one system in a classroom, it makes it easy. AAC, I've been doing it for a really long time, so it's just ingrained in me, and it feels very easy and it's very natural. But as I was reminded this year, as I moved into this new position, was that I have 7 paraprofessionals that are with me. I'll have 14 next year. That and training them is that it's not easy. It's not. It doesn't come like second nature to everybody. And so when you go into and bring this into a classroom and it's brand new for a teacher to be able to use this system, and they do have a comfort with one. I mean, I get where that can be really hard and really difficult, but it's really starting with conversations and saying, look, here is what we know. Here is what the research is saying. We want to do best for our kids. And so if we need to have a different system because Annie is not able to use this system and we have Frank who needs to use that system, then that's okay. And we can start to have that conversation and we can start to make this less scary. So yeah, really let me go. So this notion, we've kind of talked about that. Really this research is just in complete opposition of what is happening in practice. And so changing that and starting to come to the understanding that we can be a multi-system school district, we can be a multi-system classroom. That's really powerful, right? So that is a passion. I'm hoping that this will help others see that and how important that is. Okay, so how do we do this? So we know, I'm going to show you here. I have, right now we have 4 different communication systems in our classroom. We have Unity and LAMP. Both they're separate, but both PRC systems. We also have Snap, a student with Snap Plus Core, and we also have a student we have Pod, multi-different versions of Pod, some partner-assisted scanning one-page pods that we've had to create ourselves. So that to larger pod books, to also touch chat and word power. So kind of going back, we started with touch chat, moved to word power, now exploring some other systems as well with LAMP and things like that. So lots and lots of different AAC systems here, and honoring all of them and teaching all of them can be tiring, can be exhausting. So what we found is that we really wanted to stop that fatigue by engineering our environment, right? So we know that print-rich environments are vital to student learning, right? We've known that for a very long time. So having an AAC rich environment is also important. It is print rich, it is AAC rich. Having Frank's AAC system next to Jack's AAC system is okay to do. It is honoring everyone's system, right? We can see their language, and that is a great thing to have. So we have posters everywhere. You can see I have them behind me. Shows everyone that comes in here that this is we're honoring this, and this is important to us, on our doors and in front of all of our classrooms. Different systems. And all 3, you'll see that we have, or later on, that we have this communication station as well that has a lot of the posters. And you don't have to print these out. I call my reps and they send these to me. So just give them a call and have them send. You can, Assistive Wear, Prolo Crowd, they have them right online. You can send them down to the printer and get those printed. The PRC will send them to you. Dynavox will send them to you. Sotelo will send them to you. So it's just contacting your our our reps and getting those. We laminate them, we put them all over the place. They last for about a year. We replace them. It's great. They are in the home environment, they're out in the classroom environment, they're in the hallways. We plaster our world with core AAC boards. We've also, and what that helps with is that when I need to stop and I need to model, then it's there, right? Then I have access. If I don't have words to model with, then I can't model with words. If kids don't have their words to be able to use, then they can't speak with their words, right? They can't talk with their words. So it's important to have for all of us to build this idea, this engineer this environment, right? That old idea of Goose and Crane back in the day of engineering that environment of what that looks like. So once I have my environment engineered and these things are up and I have access to small core boards, I have access to the big core boards. We have them on multiple devices for myself, for therapists and paras to use so that everyone has access. And ask your reps. Most I would say most all SLPs can get a free license and a free copy of all these systems to be able to put on devices. And then it's important if you have a classroom that is as AAC needy, such as mine, then that's the responsibility of your district, or do some fundraising, do whatever you need to do to get that AAC to set it up in the environment so you can grab and go. Mobile visual supports, we have these all over the place. I have them on lanyards, we have them in pockets in the door. All of my paras have, we call it the student's Bible, that they have everything that they need in there for visual supports, along with core boards, along with our core and fringe that we're working on for that month or that week. So that we have those resources are always in someone's hand and are just a reach away to go and grab that. If you don't have that set up, then it becomes difficult, right? So it's really doing some pre-planning and having those materials there and just taping them up and getting them ready. So, core and fringe, we have that. I think that that's where it is a little bit of work on the front end, again, to get these systems ready. But it's possible. It's possible to do. In the beginning of the year, my SLP and I sat down. We decided on based on the curriculum that we're using and what we were doing with our classroom, some core words that we were going to be doing along with fringe. Now, does that mean, and when I say when we do core, I think it's important to note that is our focus of teaching. That doesn't mean it's the only thing we model or the only thing we use in our classroom when we're talking with our students, right? I don't only model I can. I don't only model can I or stop and go, because those are our core words this week and I'm not going to model anything else. So it's important to know that this is a teaching strategy that we use. We can't teach everything all at once. We have to narrow a focus and we stay here and then we go on to the next. But it doesn't mean that it is in lieu of everything else. We must model other communication pieces when we're using them. This just helps. This helps bring a focus into our world, and it helps us organize it, right? Helps us get organized. So like I said earlier, we have these systems. We have Tobii Dynavox Snap Plus Core. I have these posters all over the place. We're looking at different communication functions here as well. So we have, which I think is really important. We also write our Iep goals. Typically our complex communicators that have complex communication needs their IEPs pretty much surround, even their academics, around this idea of communication and the idea of communication functions, because it's in everything that we do. So we took a few of the communication functions as well and as that we were going to focus on in the beginning of the year. This is all things, this has changed now, but this was our beginning of the year one where we started. And we wanted to start with I can statements. We wanted to really promote this idea of kids being able to have that that autonomy and that agency, and that this was there as also those operational competencies of, of holding their communication devices, of having ownership of that. So this was all part of this plan of using this statement of I can. We used communication function of questions, can I? And then we also used a communication and splitting this up between asking a question and then having requests. So asking a question to gain information is different than requesting something to meet my need. So we really kind of focused on those two communication functions and separating them out and helping our whole staff understand the difference between those two communication functions and how it's important to have all three, well, to have all of them, but we're just focusing on these right now. And then you can't see it on the bottom, my thing is in the way, but there's stop and go. So this idea, communication functions of giving directions, and these are all core words as well. So having those communication functions, having your core words as your focus, not the only thing that we're going to talk and we're going to model, but as this was our 1 week focus that we worked on, and then built on top of that. So Snap Plus Core, we also did it in Word Power. What I did to grab these, I took screenshots. I just took your snipping tool. I have a PC that I work on, a snipping tool, and I grabbed these screenshots. Super easy. I put them into a file. We have them now from year to year to year to year that we can use when it is time for me to bring out these and create the communication station, create these communication functions and these core words. It's all built. So we have, like I said, Saltillo's Word Power Basic 60. We were at a 25. However, I really want to make sure that we give, so my student was at a 25. I really want to make sure that what we're modeling, we model theirs as well, but that we are also showing and having some core boards that have more robust language, so that when we are modeling and talking about other things, that we can have that more robust access to language. And then Unity, also Words for Life. So in New Voice, there is, I can't remember what it's called, print with symbols or speak with symbols or talk with symbols, print with symbols. But anyway, in the New Voice software, you can grab this and print these out and then make them bigger. Again, once they're done and you have these core, you have these, they're ready to go for year to year. I like showing the pathway. Again, we kept the communication functions with all three of statements, of questions, of requests, and of being able to give directions like stop, go. We were playing games on that. So this was how we started. We had our focus, again, not the only things that we were communicating, but these were our first focus. And we created this idea of this communication station. So this is right outside of our classroom. It's right outside where lots of kids gather. Well, used to gather. Now they walk by pretty quickly. And 6 feet apart, right? And someday when we get back together, I'm very hopeful that this will then become a gathering place where we can, all students throughout the school can use this to work with and talk with others using another system. So whether it's their neurotypical friends in their classroom or another AAC user next to them. So So we have this set up. We have the 3 systems that we have. You can see them here on the board. And then we, in the background, and I'll zoom into this as well, how we've set this up so that it can be just taking out of the 3 communication functions, because we're going to be continuing those on, or we had continued those on. We're in different communication functions now, but our 3 that we're focusing on along with our core. So really what happens is once I have this engineered, once I have this structured, then changing out those core words, changing out the communication functions is pretty easy to do because they're in plastic sleeves. I just whip them out. I put new ones in. We're good to go. So the timeliness, or the part that does take the time, is that prepping, is getting that done. But now I have these for year to year. And there was a time, like the first 4 weeks of school were a little crazy. I was really hoping that this was going to be for 1 week. It ended up being a month. That's okay. That's okay. If we have these core words, because I know that I am not only modeling the core in the fringe that we're talking about, or that I have posted up. We are modeling all language as we go. Depending on the student, depending where they need, am I modeling a 1+? Are they a 1-hit user? So I'm going to model 1 plus another. Or are they 3, 4 words? Am I modeling whole sentences as we communicate and we go through that? So let's kind of dive in. We're going to just kind of look at this a little bit closer. So again, I grabbed what I was given. I didn't make it myself. I had Sotelo, my rep, send me these, and then I laminated them. I went to Office Depot and I got some, they're little tabs that you can use, and they're clear on one side and they kind of have this blue strip underneath it, and they're removable. This way I can show and help all of my staff know where they are, along with myself. Some of the boards I'm not as familiar, or one board I'm not as familiar with. So sometimes it takes me a minute. If I were to have to come up to this board and it is our core words, I can, right? Stop and go. And I had to scan for this every single time. That would be exhausting. So what I do is I highlight them. I have these, they're removable, they're stickable. I put them on. And then when it's time to switch to new core words, I just move them to the next core words. So really easy. It's already set up. No one has messed with it. Kids have left it alone. They're washable. I have sanitized this over and over. So it's really been durable and it's really worked out well. So these are really great. These removable stickers. So I have the I can and go stop. So here is the one that I needed to learn a little bit more and hadn't had as much familiarity with. And so my comfort level wasn't as great. So this really helped me. I really needed to be in red. So I put them here, and so that I could quickly find the I can go, I can stop. So I can find those. Again, I have our rights, our communication rights above, and being able to see that has been really, really helpful. So we talked about communication functions. I've kind of mentioned that quite a bit. And so to me, this is like this is the essence of what we do, right? This is like, back in the day when I first started with AAC, made mass mistakes. I still make mistakes, but I made just big mistakes where it was like, all right, we're going to get our pecs out and it's snack time and we are going to use them and they're going to point, and what do you want? And there's 2, right? And we know that's quizzing. That's not communication. What if they didn't want any of those, right? And what function is that? Really, it's just requesting. So I only ever gave them one communication function to request, but language is much richer than that. And we have a lot of functions that communication serves. So this to me is, it's not just enough to set up a core word of the week and, a focus and fringe that you're using. I feel like you have to have that balance. But I think it's also really important to be able to, if you are going to have this idea of AAC agency, if you are going to have this idea of presuming competence, then we need to set up and engineer times for our kids to have refusal, right? If we are going to be honest and and really bring to heart those communication bill of rights, we need to set up this for these communication functions to give control, to have greetings, commenting, protesting, informing, sharing feelings. It's just not about requesting and getting your wants and needs met. You're just your wants and just eating or just going to the bathroom. So it's important to, I feel, when you're setting up core words, to also have this idea of communication functions. So how do we do that? Well, so I wanted something that I was not going to have to redo every single time, right? So I have these clear pockets. I print out my icon sequence. I print out my communication function. And for each area, I slip them in and away we go. I also made it so that I understand this idea of communication function in the terms of when we're looking at AAC, but I didn't know, I wanted to also educate everyone that came into this communication station, right? So I wanted to have also some visual supports, not for the students, but really for the adults and for us and paras and teachers, gen ed teachers and specialists and myself, to really have this idea of what it was. So I created these just really quick on Boardmaker. This is a statement, this is a question, this is a request. These are communication functions. And what do these functions mean? So it's been a real successful piece to do. My paras have reported to me that they really kind of have an understanding when they're modeling of what we're modeling and why we're modeling. So lots more work, to get through all of the communication functions. My goal was to get through 6, to do 6, and we're getting there and have them down, like have them really, really solid, right? I model everything I do, but what my expectation is for others in my classroom that walk in to do, I really want to give them success and small bits that are attainable, and then have and to celebrate that. The other thing, and I'm not sure if I have a slide for this, so let me just take a look. Back here in the corner, I also, or on this ridge right here, I also have a smaller, 11 by 8, whatever, printing paper, uh, that they can be taken off of the wall. Our posters aren't going to be taken off every day, right? But these can be taken off. They can also be sanitized, right? Because they're all laminated and have a coating on them. The Snap Plus core, I didn't have one. I didn't have any from the reps, so I just printed it off on TerraSlate paper, non-tearable paper, which can be sanitized, and it doesn't get rid of the ink, which it's one of my favorite things because I hate laminating. So what we did is we cut out with some wiki sticks and a colored acetone paper or colored paper or colored plastic paper. And we created these little highlighters to also highlight the core words that were being used for that week. This was also really helpful. So if we're going and I have a kid and they are on the move and they are not going to be right here in the station with me, but we need to be moving and talking, which happens all the time, then I can, and if I don't have one, then I've engineered the environment and I have it set up for this, and I can grab it and we can go. We can grab and go. Okay, so I see some questions in here, and I'm wondering, Sue, are there any that I should stop in answer?
Most of them are me talking
Okay.
to people that I need their more information. But one is a person saying that they're not able to get into your PowerPoint. It's locked to them.
Oh, okay. I will. I checked it earlier. It said that as long as you have the link, that you should be able to access that. But I will make sure that I go and make that permission right at the end. But we're almost done here. Well, about 15 more minutes. So I'll do that in a little bit. So my apologies. I had double checked and it opened. So, all right. So really going through communication functions. I love this idea of having a communication station, having this area. I can't, like I said, I can't wait for us to get back into an environment, which we all, right? Can't wait to get back into an environment where we get to have a more gathering, where we can be and kids can be in here and communicating with different systems together and learning how to do that together. One of the things, excuse me. You know, we've engineered the environment. We have posters all over the place, right? My students still require that individualized time with their device and their system, right? And that is really important. So when they have their individualized area, their learning station in, we had to do a little, mostly of my students are integrated within an inclusionary setting, but they do have some space in, I wouldn't call it, it's just my classroom. I don't call it a self-contained classroom. But they have their individualized space with their stuff. And that now having theirs there and more things there for them, for their para, for me, for specialists to be able to access very quickly in that space and having that individualized is really important. So setting that up for them as well. So one of the things, so how we go through this is I rotate this AAC system of the week as well. So in one of my classes, so I teach kindergarten through 5th grade, so all age groups. And so I have, what's nice is one of my classes has one of my groups of kids. I have 2 first graders and they both use LAMP. That system was the best fit for them. And we're going towards getting dedicated devices now for them. One of them is in one of our trials that we're working through. And so it's nice because I don't have to rotate the system of the week, the AAC system of the week, because they both use it. So that's great. In my other classroom, we have 3 different systems. So there are times when we are, let's say we're talking, we just are doing we have a new subscription, new curriculum with Readtopia, which I love and really goes to that comprehensive literacy instruction from Karen Erickson and David Copenhagen. And when we're doing our read alouds, when we're doing our close activities, when we're doing our math through that, what we do is I will rotate through the different types of systems. So we will one week have LAMP. Hey, we're going to use Frank's system today, and we're really going to model on Frank so that everybody can see how Frank uses his when he is talking. Now, each kid has in my little group has their own system, and their paras then go and model on their system as well, right? Their very own personal system. But as a group and as a teaching, I am modeling and we are celebrating Frank's system. Next week is Jack's. And so next week we're going to be doing Snap Plus Core. And now everybody gets to see how we model and how Jack uses his system. And that's been really powerful for kids and for paras and for therapists to really kind of see that and be part of that and that being inclusive. we build this, like I said, into our daily routine. This is built into everything we do. Um, because communication is everywhere. We have a right to communicate in all areas of our life, just not at the snack table. So it's been really wonderful to see. What I had hoped what was going to happen has flourished and has happened. That, it I walk into a classroom, into an individualized session with a kid, and AAC is front and center, and modeling is happening, and it is just built into everything we do, and it is becoming second nature to everyone in the whole staff. We build it into, like I said, our read alouds, in our interactive reading that we do, in our embedded and really our explicit alphabetic and our explicit word work instruction that we do every day. It is embedded into that. When I do synchronous, which I have to say, I do more synchronous than I do asynchronous. So, and I have done some recordings and sent them off. Mostly that's been to help parents when it comes to teaching them how to go through. So, taking some video of how modeling works and sending that, having them be communication partners and their students' communication and their learning partner when we are in a virtual setting. And that's been very powerful then to have that as a coaching. So recording those sessions so that parents can take a look at them again later has been very helpful. We have found that it has built up communication partners. It has built confidence in everyone who's in our room. And really, really at the end of the day, what is it building? It's building effective AAC users. So can you do this? You can. So saying I can create a multi-system AAC classroom, saying that I can create some core words, even though I'm going to model other words, I can do that. I can also use this in multiple ways, in-person teaching, virtual, synchronous, asynchronous, that it is easily embedded in everything that we do. So here's an example I wanted to show. You've seen a lot of in-person stuff, but I really wanted to show some activities that we created that we did virtually and have done virtually. We used this in the spring when everything got shut down. And this was from Go Dog Go. So what I love about Go Dog Go, and this was with my kindergartners, I would not use this with my fifth graders in working with communication with them, but this was appropriate for a kindergarten class. And what I love about Go Dog Go is it's such a natural balance. It's like meant to be balanced from core and fringe. Go, core, dog, fringe, go, core again. What a beautiful sandwich, right? It is such a great book. It's very long, so we do it in sections. We take parts and bits of this, because if you were to try to do this with the whole book, which I think there's like, I don't know, 80 pages, it's kind of crazy, you'd get exhausted. So we took parts of the book and did this with. We also did it within 3 different systems and modeled that. Now, I have to say that when we were doing this in the spring, we were doing more one-on-one sessions or 2 kids with their communication partners and their learning partners at home virtually, and with the speech and language pathologist and myself, that we would do this co-teaching with this. So really, we were modeling one system at a time for those particular students. But we did all the setup. So we had this book, Go Dog Go. We used and circled, and we put this into a Google slide. We were able to move these around and move our circle around to go, and then we would move it over to come to get to where, to be able to go find the dog, to pet, to dog. to find that sequence to get there. And then modeling that then and working on that, the parents were able to also participate, which was awesome. And then we would do a boom card, which was always exciting and fun, that added to this. And we would give over our control to their student. They were able to, take that and be able to activate the boom cards. And then we'd come back and finish with the communication. I would have my iPad where I would model, which when I'm virtual, I prefer my students seeing my hand and seeing my finger move and modeling versus having it as an on screen. I have done the on screen. It just depends on what age. For me, I feel my emerging communicators and my first learners of AAC really need to see me physically doing it, and I've had more success with that. My more experienced AAC users that aren't necessarily in those emerging communicators, I feel that they do okay with it being on the screen, and they don't need to see me physically modeling what that looks like. So just some examples of, let me move this so you can see, just examples of the Go Dog Go that we created. Very easy to do with the materials. And actually, I think that I used, oh, of course, now I'm going to forget the software, Lesson Picks. I use Lesson Picks because they have all of the Unity icons and lamp icons on there. So I just went to Lesson Picks, I grabbed it, threw it in here, super easy to do. Talk big, we were doing little. It was awesome to go then throw in a boom card with that, easy to do. So I want to say thank you. I'm ending. I have a few minutes early, I think, here, but we can talk, ask some questions if they wanted to leave some time for questions. So I just really kind of want to wrap this up with this idea of that, you can do this. You can say to yourself, I can, like I said earlier, have a multi-system communication classroom. I can have multiple communication systems in my classroom. I can model multiple communication systems. I can set up my core, I can have my fringe, and I can have those communication functions that are so important so that it just doesn't happen at snack time. So I hope that you found a couple things that you could take away, a couple things that you can use to create this for yourself. It's possible. It's hard work, but once you have it set up, it's something that you can use from year to year. So thanks, everyone. I did want to point out that in the background here, also we use our alternative pencil, which has been a huge, huge success as well. So having that as along with AAC has been great. So thanks.
Hey, Sharon, Mary Altina asked if you have a website that they can share modeling of AAC devices to parents.
I do have a website, but I do not have videos that are up there for modeling that I have posted to how I model AAC. I can create some, that would be pretty easy to do, and I can post them to my website. So, and if they have or want to send me their email, I could do some, I have a couple kids that parents have given me permission to take video of, so that, but I don't feel comfortable posting that like on a website, but I wouldn't mind sending that via email for the parents that I've had that permission from. So
great,
would be happy to do that. So just send me that.
Perfect. I've got a follow-up email that's going out that will have the updated link to your handouts.
Okay.
So it could be that they reply to you on that.
Oh yes, that sounds great. And you can get me here. I'm at shredman@communicationspaces.com. Also, you can do shredman@gmail. That's a little easier, a little shorter. And I'm also at I currently work at the Port Townsend School District. So it's sredman@ptschools.org. You can also reach me there. And then the other thing I did want to let everyone know, April, what is it? April 26th, is that
Yeah,
right?
Monday, the 26th.
Monday, April 26th, I'm going to be presenting the last webinar that I'll be doing for the spring. And it's going to be, and I'm super excited about this because it has been a huge learning piece for me this year, but is this. So you see all my tabs, it's color coded, it's written in. So I tried to be part of a book study. I'm not good at getting to places on time, apparently. So I kind of watch them after, but I've done my own book study and implementing, and how then I've taken this and trial and error. And I'm happy to say a lot more successes than fails on how to implement these strategies. And so we're going to be talking about that and what that looks like, success or comprehensive literacy for all, and how to go from a book study to implementation, right? Because that's always the challenge. So, but yeah, pop back in.